Everyone knows the ending is all that matters.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and these are all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in episode 5 of The Walking Dead, Dead City. Now, right off the bat, we get an unusual sense of concern coming from Maggie when she asks about Negan.
Anyone say what happened to Negan?
The look on Maggie's face and the tone of her voice seem a little out of place. Now, I think this is one of the few times we've actually heard Maggie utter the name Negan without there being a sense of hate or contempt in the tone of her voice. Now, at first I thought that maybe Maggie really is desperate to have Negan with her because she feels like she can't save Herschel without him. But what this is really telling us is that Negan is an even more crucial part to Maggie's plan to save Herschel than we had previously been led to believe, but more on that later. We hear Tommaso mention that the effects that breathing in the methane can have on your mind.
And your heart starts pounding. Feels like there's a jackhammer going off in your head. Feel like you're gonna puke. That's the methane kicking in.
And we've already seen what can happen back in episode 3 when the Marshal was forced to breathe in methane gas from a Walker tank. Now, speaking of the Marshal, we see him and Negan held up in a souvenir shop. Here we can see Negan holding a small figurine of the Statue of Liberty. Now, of course, the Statue of Liberty is a New York City icon that you'd expect to find in any New York souvenir shop. But there are plenty of other iconic buildings and tourist spots that they could have chosen, so why Lady Liberty specifically? Well, the statue itself represents freedom. Negan and Maggie are both yearning for a freedom that they haven't felt since that gruesome night back in season 7 of the original series. Maggie is unable to let go of her hatred for Negan and the death of her late husband, Glenn, and Negan is unable to let go of the massive guilt he feels for what he took from her.
I am so sorry.
Both aspire to be free from that awful night that has haunted them for years. So it's fitting that together they've traveled to New York City, home of Lady Liberty, a place that can represent new beginnings and a fresh start for any who seek it.
America.
It's also worth mentioning the Statue of Liberty was given to us by France. In The Walking Dead, France was the last country to fall during the outbreak, and France is also where Daryl Dixon's spin-off series will be taking place.
I went out looking for something and all I found was trouble.
In this gift shop, we also see a license plate that reads #1 Mom. Now this could be a reference to Maggie, a mother who has given all she has and more to protect and provide a better life for her son Herschel, and who has made it clear that she'll stop at nothing to get Herschel back. But this could also be a reference to Negan's second wife, Annie, who is also the mother to Negan's only child that we've never actually met. When Maggie confronts Jenny about her obsession with Negan, an obsession they share but for different reasons, Maggie tells Jenny that Negan isn't wanted for something as simple as stealing a loaf of bread, and that he isn't the person that Jenny thinks he is. This loaf of bread line could be in reference to Jean Valjean from Les Miserables. He was wrongfully imprisoned for years for stealing a mere loaf of bread to feed his family.
Stole a loaf of bread.
While Negan, on the other hand, Negan tells the Marshal that he was once a gym teacher. Now this is true both in the original series and the comics.
Work for the state too. Gym teacher.
Now on this wall we can see the word Sunday spray painted really big. Now this could be in reference to how The Walking Dead and all its counterparts have always aired on Sunday nights, but this was spelled S-U-N-D-A-E, which is the spelling for like a hot fudge sundae. So maybe a survivor was just craving some ice cream.
Hey, you like ice cream? We have ice cream.
Here we see Negan and the Marshal come across a really creepy assembly of baby doll parts.
Some avant-garde artist from before.
Or someone who lost their mind from after.
This is foreshadowing the Marauder-style Walker that we see toward the end of the episode, but more on that in just a bit. These tanks down in the sewer are filled with the liquid methane fuel that we heard the Croat mention in episode 3.
The bodies break down, they produce methane, and because the intermolecular forces are weak, the gas can be pressurized into a liquid fuel.
And then we get an awesome callback to the Walking Dead pilot. As Negan is running away, we see him encounter doors that read, "Don't open, dead inside." Just like in the pilot, we saw Rick Grimes encounter doors that read, "Don't open, dead inside," when he was escaping the hospital. Now, I really loved getting to see this callback to the first episode and the parallels between the characters of Rick and Negan. Rick saw these doors when he was taking his first steps to transitioning from officer friendly to the axe-wielding, throat-biting badass that we all know and love. Rick changed a lot as a character from his days as a small-town cop and the frightened man who read that warning on the door. Just like we're seeing Negan change a lot from the villain he was when we first met him to the sympathetic anti-hero that he has become. Back in the sewers, Maggie uses an oxygen tank to kill a walker, but this isn't the first time we've seen a tank of oxygen be used to bash in a walker's head. Back in season 4 of The Walking Dead, during the redemption arc of another past villain, the Governor, we saw him use an oxygen tank to fight off walkers as well. After the death of Tommaso, we see Maggie stab him in the head. A reminder that in this world, when you die, you come back as a walker, unless you kill the brain, because
We're all infected.
when we catch up with the Croat, we can see that he's quite displeased that he lost Negan. And this is when the plot begins to thicken, and we learn that the Croat isn't interested in Negan for revenge or an obsession to impress him. No, he's working for this lady.
Hey, that's that crazy lady from Ozark that shot off that guy's thingies, mob hopper.
That's gotta hurt!
What does she want with Negan?
Well, from what we can tell, she seems to be a former stage actress or theater director. Her headquarters is within a New York City theater, and her office is in a big fancy dressing room. We even hear her describe the events of the series as if it's part of a play.
You thought you had your hero, but he got away. And what good is a hero off stage?
And it would appear that this is why she wants Negan. She wants a man who is capable of theatrics and scare tactics. She wants the infamous Negan the Croat has told her so much about. On this bus, we can see a sign that reads 101. This is likely a reference to The Walking Dead comic issue 101, the follow-up to issue 100, which featured the introduction of Negan. In issue 100, we saw Negan kill Glenn, just like in the show. And in issue 101, we saw the aftermath of those events and how it would affect characters such as Maggie going forward. In the TV series, we saw a lot of fans drop off after the arrival of Negan and the brutal killing of Glenn. Now, you could say the Walking Dead TV series could be split into BN and AN, before Negan and after Negan. 101 of the comics represents the period after his arrival and lays the groundwork for the war to come. In Dead City, we're also living in a post-Negan world, not only in the sense that it's taking place after the arrival of Negan in the Walking Dead TV universe, but we're also seeing a world where that evil version of Negan no longer exists. When the Marshal talks about his late brother, whose dead body we saw in episode 2, we hear that his name was Joel.
My brother, his name was Joel.
Now, I'd like to think this could be a wink and a nod to The Walking Dead's unofficial successor, The Last of Us, whose lead character is named Joel. And Joel from The Last of Us actually has a lot in common with Negan. They both did nasty things and hurt innocent people just to stay alive. And now, much later on into the apocalypse, they've changed their ways and want to be good. And they've both even taken responsibility for caring for an orphaned young girl.
People are making apocalypse jokes like there's no tomorrow. Too soon?
No, it's topical.
As the Marshal talks about his late brother, we hear him say that he had a lot of charisma but was constantly getting into fights, just like Negan. Negan's wanted poster warns of his charisma. And in the flashback episode, Here's Negan, we learned that Negan lost his job as a gym teacher because he got into a bar fight with one of his students' parents.
Because you can't be a gym teacher anymore. You have a misdemeanor assault on your record.
And then next we see what is without a doubt the best and most terrifying walker The Walking Dead has ever created. I call it the Marauder Walker because it looks just like the creature we saw in Evil Dead Rise when we see the possessed mother and her children morph together into this disgusting multi-headed beast. Over time, these stacked up walkers likely just decomposed into one another and became a single being. But what's really cool is how this monster crawls and each walker limb is being used in tandem with the other. It's as if the zombie virus controlling these dead bodies is using these multiple bodies as one and has coalesced into one consciousness. But in order to kill the beast, Maggie has to stab each head. Which actually is very similar to Hercules' labor of killing the Hydra. Okay, so the whole plot of this show has been that the Croat raided Maggie's group savior style, taking all their food and supplies and telling them that if they don't have more when they come back, bad things will happen. When the Croat returned, they didn't have an offering, and so he took Maggie's son hostage. We're then led to believe that Maggie sought out Negan for help to save her son because she pieced together that Negan knew the Croat.
Before he took my son, do you know what he did?
But it turns out that Maggie is a
Liar.
We get a flashback showing us Jenny's time at New Hilltop, or as Maggie now calls it, the bricks. Jenny climbs to the top of a silo and sees that it is full of grain. The Croat never raided Maggie's home. He really took Herschel hostage in exchange for Maggie bringing Negan to him so that he could bring Negan to his boss.
Crazy Ozark lady.
Yes.
What a twist.
I mean, yes, it really is. I certainly didn't see it coming. But after seeing this revealed, the whole plot definitely makes a lot more sense now. Now we know why the Croat was asking Herschel about Negan. And it makes even more sense why Maggie was concerned about Negan's survival at the top of the episode and why she can't risk letting him go to find Jenny. But so much for that, because we see Jenny use the flare that Negan gave her to alert Negan that she's on the island. So Negan will likely be abandoning the Herschel rescue mission temporarily so he can go find her. So that's everything we found in this week's episode of Dead City. Did you find anything that you want us to talk about? Let us know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.